space. There. You locked out?
Nope.
Usually he texts me. Thanks. I thought I would push through, but seems like you. That's a bummer. Ragu.
Happy to know those Hastings numbers.
So good.
Hastings numbers hadn't been updated yet, but I still don't want to. I don't trust
The numbers overall. Quite right.
You know what? I mean, it's just not clear when people move and they don't let us move. Know that they're moving, right? So back to I would say we're
Hello, sir. How are you?
Hi.
Hi, y'all.
Well, the worst part is that I looked at them last week. I looked at that same data sheet last week.
I hadn't been updated.
So I'm like, how is it possible that the 8th grade is more than the 9th grade? And I kept saying, this can't be updated. This can't be right. So I was like, I'm just too confused by this.
Still here.
They hadn't been updated when I looked at them.
Me too. Yeah.
That was funny.
You like our
I don't even know
nice
why
lighting?
I had that he was on it.
It's amazing, isn't
I
it?
don't know if I
But we're waiting for the real lights to
searched
go
for
on.
enrollment
Oh,
and then
there's-
yeah,
There was a
came up.
power issue, I guess,
I
on
was like,
Friday
how
night.
is it that it's even in my drive? So
Timers
maybe
will
he
get
shared
screwed
it with
up,
us.
is it?
You
Nobody
know,
knows.
I think
Jim
that's
doesn't
what it
know.
was. I think that's what it was.
To show you.
Know there was an issue, so
Idiot. So it
coming over
popped up
here.
into my recent.
All we need is what?
Daniel
And
may
at
have
least the
commented
speakers
on
and the
I think that's what
right
happened.
the
So I was
things
like,
that
oh,
we
I guess I
need.
should look at this.
We
because
don't
of
need to be
enrollment
seen.
numbers.
They can hear us.
That's true.
But it made it
But
look
it
like
was
it
Spotlight
was
on it.
But
down.
as it gets darker, it's going to get a little bit more interesting. The school committee.
Cozy. It's gonna be very cozy.
I could bring some lamps from upstairs. I could.
It's definitely, we're gonna move quickly because it could be very dark.
Okay, let's do it. Steve, just so you know, Ragu is not here tonight.
Okay.
Wearing a mask
Not
too?
feeling well. He had a relapse. I don't know. He wants to. Hi, Westboro TV. You ready? Okay, I'll just count to 5. All right, welcome everyone. This is Kristen Vincent, Chair of the Westboro School Committee. Today is Monday, August 30th, 2021. This meeting of the Westboro School Committee is called to order. Please stand if you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Anyone attending the school committee meeting tonight is welcome to wear a mask, and unvaccinated individuals are strongly advised to wear masks. I'd like to notify everyone in the room with us tonight that the meeting is being recorded by Westboro TV. School committee meetings are available for remote viewing or listening on Westboro's TV government channels, Verizon 28 and Charter 192, and online on the Westboro TV YouTube channel. A recording of this meeting will be posted on the Westboro YouTube channel for anyone who'd like to watch the recording. Thank you to Westboro TV for covering the broadcast tonight and for accommodating our school committee meetings this year. We have with us tonight Superintendent Amber Bach, Assistant Superintendent Dr. Daniel Mayer, Director of Finance and Administration David Gordon, Vice Chair of the Westboro School Committee Steve Durrett, School Committee members Sarah Dulay and Lisa Edinburgh. Raghu Nandan cannot join us tonight. Our student representative Andrew Chen is here. And we have staff from Westboro TV handling the broadcast and recording of this meeting. Our agenda for the meeting is as follows. We'll have approval of minutes from June 9th, 2021 regular session and August 17th, 2021 regular session. We'll have reports from the superintendent and the Director of Finance and Administration. We'll have school committee member reports, building project updates, citizens' requests. Then we'll move into a discussion of opening protocols. We'll review the warrant articles for the upcoming fall town meeting. We'll have a hiring and enrollment update. And then we need to do some committee appointments for several committees, and then update a few policies, updating our Director of Finance Administration and getting his name on the policies. So we will begin with an approval of minutes. So we'll start with the minutes from June 9th, 2021 regular session.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from June 9th, 2021.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion about those minutes? All right, all in favor? All right, so that's 4 with 1 member missing tonight. And then the minutes from August 17th, 2021 regular session.
I'll move the minutes from August 17th, 2021, regular session.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion about those? All right, all in favor? Okay, so that's 4 in favor with 1 missing member tonight. So I'll turn it over to the superintendent. Welcome.
Welcome. So I just want to comment that tonight we have a bit of mood lighting going on in the large hall here, because I think one of the breakers got flipped when there was a power outage. So it's very romantic in here tonight. So we might have a very quick meeting if they don't get the lights on. So we're going to keep moving tonight. Today was opening day for all faculty. The first 2 days are for preparation of getting ready before we greet students in district on Wednesday. Today went very well. It was all faculty gathering. We decided to shift from the auditorium inside to outdoor in the high school stadium, where we were able to have music and people could be without masks and socialize and gather together and have an opportunity to really come back and see each other and greet each other for the start of the year. I want to thank Kristen for making opening comments on behalf of the school committee. And both Daniel and I, made a few comments to start the year, and the union heads for the paraeducators and teachers welcomed them back to the start of the year. It was very, very positive. Things went well, and faculty then headed out to a series of departmental and team meetings and faculty meetings for the remainder of the day. We typically host a barbecue, and we opted not to do that this year, and I think Dave will make some comments during his update on how we modified things. And overall, I think the day was very, very positive. Tomorrow are building-based prep days for a continuation of meetings and preparation and room setup and organization, all in readiness for greeting students on Wednesday. We're looking forward to a smooth start. Things are feeling ready to go, and I think certainly the energy today was that the faculty, after some time to rest and regroup, are very excited to open the year. So my other note is that we certainly organized today at our admin cabinet meeting, which is the central office team, to rotate through the buildings to greet students and watch the flow of opening. On the first days, we kind of move around the district and make sure that a couple of us are at each of the buildings. And so Dave and I are looking forward to watching the senior march-in at the high school, and then getting a chance this week to see preschoolers come. Daniel will be covering several schools as well as we rotate around. And I think we'll all be watching closely the implementation of opening fails, because I think the traffic flow over there is certainly complex as we're into this phase of the final stages before we are able to demolish the old fails. And I think we've gotten ready, and I think I'll compliment any comments that Mr. Durrett provides to enhance answering any questions you might have about that. And that's my report for tonight.
Great, thank you. Daniel.
I would add, as far as openings concerned, last week we did have orientation sessions for new staff. There were about 60 new teachers, paras, and mentors who came together. It was 2 days of meetings, for them to get to know the district, for us to get to know them better. Their mentors spent some time with them. We give them all a booklet that has all kinds of, useful things on the district that they can, easily get information, have it at their fingertips. The group is a nice variety of some people who are very new to education, as well as it's like a bell curve of experience. And then there's some people who are, been teaching for a few years, and then we have a whole bunch of teachers that are very experienced and have relocated or, decided to apply for a job here in Westboro. But it's a good group. They're energetic, they're smart, interesting people. And so it was fun to welcome them. So.
And then I think, Dana, you put on the website the staff orientation booklet, and so I just think it's good for your point of information when you guys like to get a feel for the types of things that are available at the district level. Daniel was able to post that, so it's available to all staff, and it's available to you as well.
If you look up here at the website, under for staff, there's a staff orientation book. So if you're interested just to see what kind of topics, we go through, and some of we've updated this over the years, and it's definitely at this point something that many of the leadership have commented. This is something that all the teachers actually could use, because it's shortcut to essential information that a lot of people want to know about the district. Everything from our demographics to our religious holiday calendar, to tuition reimbursement, how to get help with technology, the different teacher databases we have, issues on licensure and certification. So these are all hyperlinks that'll take you down to the sections of the book. But so if you're feeling like you want to see what it looks like in terms of what we covered during orientation, you can go to our website and take a look.
Thank you. Yeah, that does look like a good
I
resource.
do notice the secret arrival of Daniel's dog in the upper left-hand corner,
I said,
visiting
Amber,
a
look,
classroom.
Look, there's a surprise in here. And she goes, look, it's me. And I was like, no, my dog.
I know, I was like, oh, you put in a picture of me, I feel so loved. And he's like, no.
You are
my
loved.
dog.
Yeah.
So I think those pictures are really fun. It's just very cute.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think worth taking a look at for you. I think you guys do a great job to kind of stay updated on the types of work we're doing. It's very current.
Yeah, that seems like a great resource for everyone involved, whether you're new to the district or not, so nice. Yeah.
That's my update.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Dave, welcome.
Thank you. I would just echo Superintendent and Assistant Superintendent's comments about the welcoming event. It was very great. It was my first one. I want to commend the three of you for your speeches. I really felt they resonated with the community, the teachers. They came across as very sincere and heartfelt, and I think that was a good way to start the year for returning teachers that had needless to say, a long year with the pandemic and things like that. So it was very appreciative, not only from my perspective, but I think the teachers loved it as well. A couple of quick updates, as Amber mentioned, related to food services. Because of the pandemic and some modifications to our welcoming process, we welcomed in our new food service director by asking him to essentially shepherd the lunches at different schools, which, to my knowledge, went off without a hitch. Amber and I were fortunate enough to walk into the high school kitchen and see the staff making great meals and preparing, and like I said, to the best of my knowledge, went off without a hitch. He's doing a good job, and working on his rapport with the school leaders and cafeteria managers to essentially ensure the community is fed, menu choices are adhered to, allergies are being cognizant of, and he's doing a good job. I think the other update that I would provide is that of transportation. As you may have heard through the news and some other districts, there are some driver issues, but for us in Westboro, fortunately, we are not dealing with any of those difficulties, and we are keeping a close pulse with our contract company. So we're being mindful of that. We are also watching the route and how the routes are going, but again, as Amber mentioned, paying close attention to the transportation in and out of the fails. So we're keeping an eye on that, and thus far, all signs are go, green lights across the board, and today's ceremony really solidified the start to a great year.
Yeah, I saw bus routes were posted a few weeks ago, so that's nice to get those out early and notify families on those. And we always know that never goes smoothly on the first day because there's so many people who want to take pictures of their kids by the bus, or they're running late or running early. So we know we have to have a lot of patience on the first couple days of school with the buses. And it's been a while since we've had a full complement of students on each school bus. So we look forward to that.
Can I piggyback on this? So there are some new procedures at Mill Pond in terms of parent drop-off and parent pickup that emails, more than one has gone out from Mr. Gelnitz, and so that is going to be a little bit of a change, and the real reason is to make sure that those buses get in and get out, 24 of them, so that there's a smoother operation when it comes to that first run of the day and that first run in the afternoon. And so that's a little bit of a change, and so parents will certainly feel that a little bit. And the other is that the bus app, which we've talked about over the past year, 2, 3, is changing, and NRT has done a few run-throughs with other districts to see if their new app, which is under patent pending, or the whole process of what is now going to be called the Beacon Mobility app, runs very differently, so it's a little more usable for districts when it comes to transponder and, GPS. What's so different about it is that it is not route-based, and there's no need to match the transponder, and parents can put in actual locations, but it will not come to us until probably after October 1st, just to give parents a little idea of when to maybe expect that. But it sounds like it is going to happen, and we'll see it when it gets here, and it will certainly help with the whole process of knowing when the bus is on its way, and it helps parents quite a bit.
Great, thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks. So we'll move into our school committee member report. So I want to welcome Andrew. Anything from the schools?
Yeah, so just last week we had our annual Rangers Give Back Day, which is this great day of community service that for all the student athletes. And this year we actually had the most number of student athletes participate in the past few years. So I think that's a great start. And also tomorrow there's going to be the Fails in Hastings Open Door Day. So it's going to be a great day for students and parents to come in and see the classrooms and things. And also the first day of school, we're going to have the senior parade, which will be exciting. Yeah, that's it.
All right, great, thank you. I'm sure you've waited a long time for that senior parade.
Yeah.
So,
And we did also, I think the Rangers Give Back did a great job. I would agree, Andrew. And also note that sports opened officially, and teams are up and running effectively using all their protocols. The only really modified protocol being the volleyball indoor is the only indoor sport in the fall, so they're masked. And so Coach Anderson is modifying as needed, but we have a good, robust turnout for all our fall sports, and we can't really wait to get started.
yeah, that's great. Andrew, Sarah.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. Thanks for the traffic reminder on the first day of school, too, because I think they took over Charles Street and a little bit of West Main for like a good 20 minutes, so just watch out for that, for sure. I just want to welcome everyone back again. I wasn't able to go this morning. I heard it went well, so thank you. And thanks to the administrators, and administrative secretaries, things like that, everyone who was here over the summer getting us ready for these days to return to school, because I know there was a lot of work done over the summer, so thank everyone for that. And thank you to all the parent groups for providing supplemental snacks and treats and little small welcome gifts at every school, I believe, or most schools, to supplement the lunch that was provided. So thanks to everyone who contributed to that as well. And then I also did a little Just a little housekeeping reminder, I did my Power School sign-offs, and it's super easy. You log into Power School, just where you look for your kids' grades, and in the bottom corner, there actually is a tab that says to-do list, and it tells you exactly what to do. And you click on the ones, there's like the health form and the emergency contacts, all the important information, you can make any changes, and then you just click it off. And so something that used to take me like an hour took about 5 minutes. So don't forget to do that. I think we keep emailing people until they get it done because it has to be updated. So
We do, we chase everyone, yes.
yes, housekeeping reminder, it's super easy. Just go do it right now while you're watching this meeting. And we also were able to complete this summer finally the Safe Routes to School walk audit that I've been talking about for like a year or so. So we met at Gibbons and Armstrong with Officer Jabalite, a couple of the principals, and members of the Bike and Pedestrian Committee, and a couple of the parent group presidents, and the representative from Safe Routes to School came out and conducted the audit for both those schools. We walked around for a couple hours and discussed things, and then she's going to give suggestions of things that we could do just on our own, through our municipal public works department, or even through the schools. Cheap and easy things, also suggestions, and then also things that we could apply to Mass Department of Transportation for grants for. So that was good to get that done, and I look forward to maybe trying to do them at the other schools once Thales comes online too. Maybe we can do that over there too. So and Mill Pond, maybe she can make some suggestions. Although, as Lisa pointed out, Mr. Gelness has been very great about traffic patterns over there and working with what he's got. So thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
It's his on-the-ground military training.
I know.
He's got it all. He gets all fired up about it.
He doesn't need their maps. He's got it. He's got it. But anyway, so thank you. Those are my updates.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for the reminder about the Power School sign-offs.
Super easy.
Thank you. Lisa?
Yes, I just have a couple. This came to me actually in May, and I'm so sorry that I did not announce it in my reports back then, but this was really great news. The Westboro High School Best Buddies Club was awarded the Outstanding High School Chapter of the Year for all of Massachusetts. And so they did some great work throughout the year, including creating a unified bocce ball league, Special Olympics virtual dance. They had a comedian, Frank Stevens, an international advocate with Down syndrome, spoke to our school community during our Spread the Word to End the Word campaign. That was attended by 80+ students and staff. And then they had a food drive. They paired up with Northborough High School. They safely carried out the in-person Just Dance event. So they've really done some impressive things, and it really is in a great club that is, the membership is huge, and it's a great club, and they were really highly awarded for all the work that they do. It was so great to have them highlighted. And I'm sorry that it took me so long to bring it to you now. And also another award that went out that I want to thank Westboro TV, who televises our meetings throughout the year. They won the 2021 Hometown Media Award from the Alliance for Community Media Foundation, a national award to honor and promote community media, community radio, and local cable programs. And they produced a video called Go Local More Than Ever Westboro, which was done by an intern. And Holly Van Wee, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, and I apologize, and she was under supervision of the general manager, who we thank always, Karen Henderson. So I wanted to just mention those two. And that is all I have for tonight.
Thanks. Steve, do you have anything to share, or are you going to save it all for building project updates?
I'll do the building projects update.
All right. I just want to share for my report that everyone should be expecting traffic around town on Wednesday morning and Wednesday afternoon, especially if you drive by the high school. Just lots of buses that need to get in and out of there when they're swapping positions at Gibbons, and just the usual parents figuring out where to drop off, pick up, kids coming in, parking their own cars. So just expect some traffic, but to me, that's a sign that things are getting back to typical, so it kind of will feel good to have a little bit of traffic around town in the morning. So we just ask for the community's patience as we get our schools back up and running. So Steve, I'm going to turn it over to you for some building project updates.
Well, for those who were around all the summer, you probably noticed the progression of of completion at Fales School. The project is moving along. We did decide to save approximately $200,000 worth of overtime by delaying the schedule from sometime in early October to a transition weekend of November the 11th, when we'll transition from the old school into the new building. As a result of that change in dates, as I said, we saved the overtime expenses of the contractor trying to make a date in October that didn't really mean anything to the school system. And so what has transpired over the summer at this point in the project, the solar panels have started on the roof. The geothermal well system is complete and piped into the new building. The mechanical end and components of that work is also completed. Adding fluid to the geothermal wells will begin shortly. And the internal finishes of the building are coming along quite well, although there are items that are believed to be somewhat delayed in the sense of availability of certain components for which during the summer, with yeoman's work from the architect, that we have reviewed alternative products to use because the original specified products weren't available, either available in hand or couldn't be made available in the time that we had left to finish the school. So the project is on time based on the relaxed schedule, and that we will, at this stage, without any other unknown impacts of delayed material, make the transition on November the 11th weekend. Other projects in town, including work at Hastings, has continued, and the design work for the HVA system has continued as well through the summer, and there are certain upsets, I guess, in that schedule that we're working through, which will necessitate going to town meeting in the fall for the construction funds necessary for that. Speaking of town meeting, we also will be talking about town meeting articles tonight, but there is an article related to the Fales School. For those of you who have a long memory, way back when we went to the town as a result of the need for municipal projects to go before the town meeting for approval, and that happened in 2018 for Fales School. At the time, we didn't realize that we couldn't have gasoline-fired equipment inside the school building, and so the snow and grass mowing equipment needs to be stored somewhere else. So we'll be coming back to the town meeting this fall to ask for permission to add a shed to the property for the purposes of storing snow fighting equipment and lawnmowers. There isn't any change to the envelope for construction of the building. The shed will sit between the new step-up transformer for the facility and where the trash bins will be for the school. From the street, you won't see it because those of you who know the site know that there's a retaining wall at the level of where the old parking lot was on the north side of the school, and that wall still exists, and therefore with the plantings on the Eli Whitney side of this feature, you won't even see the building. So as a quick update for where we are, I think a lot of people are getting excited about the new Fales and the opportunities that it has for kids in that school. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Steve?
For those who haven't really been paying attention in the past, do we have the same date prospect, or are we moving, do we still expect it to open at that, I think it was, am I wrong that it was November?
Yeah, so that, yes.
Yeah, it's the same time.
Same time.
The original contract had us done in August, and issues associated with the ability to complete the design kept us from
being able to achieve that early date. And so the schedule slipped to late in September as a result of the late bid and other issues associated with town meeting. And then it appeared that we wouldn't be able to actually occupy the building until early October. And an early October date just didn't make any sense. So in order to be able to save money without any real impact on the occupancy of the new building, the November 11th weekend was established.
And just to add to that, I think we will be providing more and more detailed information to the Fails parent community and kind of to get a picture for the flow of that transition and the days, what they will look like when we're greeting students and bringing them back. I think we want to track the trajectory of the work through October, and we have some hard set dates when we want to finalize where we are to be confident that we'll hit that target, so we don't have to then move any other planning pieces. So, you know, Steve is keeping people on point to hit that date, and we will be providing both a community update, but then also really the parents need a picture of, we gave an update at the end of the year around some of the transition plans that we would have in place for them, like half days that students would head home. And so we'll resend that, provide more detail, and update everyone as soon, probably closer to end of September, October 1st, when we feel like we get another hard look at the date benchmarks. So
I forgot to add one thing. There has been interest in how the parking will work out in this interim period. The lower parking lot is been repaved and reset at a new elevation. There are some temporary access features associated with that to get into the school at this point. There's an additional parking lot up the top of the hill where the existing office trailers are. And the people who occupy those trailers will be given space in the old school building so that those trailers can be removed, and that the upper area for parking will also be included when we start school. So we have created in this manner enough parking spaces for the staff and others who need to be in the school, at least equivalent to what the current need is. Eventually, of course, there's additional parking that will occur where the old school is after it gets demolished. And in the meantime, there are routes for bus delivery of kids and the collection of them at the end of the day. And all of that information will be made public shortly. Thanks.
Great, sorry, one more quick clarification. The article, I know we're going to talk about it later, but that's just a zoning article. There's no money attached to that.
Well, that's correct. And it's called a zoning article because M1 has that feature. But at this point, because there isn't any change in the envelope of the building that was already voted by the town, that question, whether or not it requires a 2/3 vote, which would be, quote, a zoning issue, or whether it's just another feature that the town needs to acknowledge, which would then mean it's a simple majority vote is being reviewed by town council at this time. So right now it's on the warrant as a zoning article, in which if it doesn't change that nature, it would require a 2/3 vote. But as I said, it's a feature of the school that that you wouldn't even see from Eli Whitney Street.
Thank you. And I think I forgot to mention in the review of the agenda that we're going to have summer projects update later in our meeting, so we'll hear more about some of that work that you mentioned, Steve, that was happening this summer. So it's the time of our meeting for citizens' requests, but I don't see anyone here tonight who would want to step forward with a citizen's request. But as a reminder, anyone is welcome at our meetings. Our meetings are open to the public, and if you would like to address the school committee, you are welcome to do that during citizens' requests.
Dinner date.
So we will move on to the discussion of opening protocols. And Amber, you sent out a communication on Friday with just a few little updates on the opening protocols. So that was very helpful.
Yeah, so thank you. I'll take it from here, and Daniel and I will provide an update on our progression towards opening. So I also want to acknowledge, too, that we hold this meeting in place to make sure that if we need any major votes or major opening changes, this is our protection meeting to make sure that we really have an opportunity for you guys to be together. So the good news is that really right now, there are not any crises you have to vote on. And so I think tonight's an opportunity to just step you through some of the updates that we provided. And Daniel, you can probably skim down to we did a brief letter update to people, which had been a standing document. And then I think there's really only one significant change, which is the guidelines as you had voted them had us masking through to September 20th. You then had DESE put out an extension mandated plan for everyone to be masking through October 1st. So you can see I amended that in the plan when I pushed it out, and then just made sure that all of the other notations were cohesive to that guideline. And the others meet all of the protocols required. We'd already done the planning work. So, our planning basically affirms what DESE came out with, and other than modifying that date, didn't require any other changes. Then you can look at what will happen after October 1st, and we will continue the trajectory as we mapped it out, which will be that we will study the data, we will look at benchmark numbers in Westboro, we will look at infection rates, we will look at what DPH is saying, we will look at what DESE was saying, we will work with the Board of Health to bring forward a recommendation on any changes to the protocol. That will be provided through updates and discussions that happen at the public sessions here as a school committee or at the Board of Health. And there are some pieces to that we've discussed that we will make sure we complete, which is to get the vaccination information updates to make sure that our rates of vaccination meet any benchmarks. DESE's initial is 80%. We're beyond that already. But more importantly, we want to look at our specific building-based data and make sure that we have confidence that should any other recommendation emerge for any variation in masking, that we're looking at the data for Westboro. And then in a minute, we added, if you scroll down, current information on traveling, which was that we're following the current CDC generalized guidelines, doesn't require any other specified changes for us at the school level, but you can use those links to get the picture of international or domestic travel. Again, those are continually updated, and should something change, that requires something differently that we do, we'll put it into this frequently asked questions. We are not doing an attestation form this year. There's not data we feel we need to cyclically collect. We just request that people follow the guidelines that are continuing to be required of monitoring their symptoms. All of the other pieces echo the approvals that you already made. So the only things I added were those things which we've just stepped through: the travel update, the shift to October 1st, and the notation that we will continue with the planned protocol to basically assess our data and work with the boards in town and with DPH and data to decide how we move forward. We've been tracking the feedback, and I'll turn it over to Daniel and let him give you an update on the feedback that we've received from people around these updates.
Well, we've had so far, it's been 40, but right before a school committee meeting, I was looking, it was 43 people had contributed to the feedback form. That is some indication that people are not nearly, obviously, as concerned as last year, where we had literally hundreds of people providing feedback. The feedback, there's, I would say, 20 comments about masks of the 40. I mean, I'm not giving you exact numbers here, but and those break down half and half. Like half the people want no masks, and the other half want masks for the whole year. There's some comments about why can't we offer a virtual, fully remote experience for students. And then there's several comments about just distancing and lunchtime and, protocols like that. But that's kind of the flavor of what's there.
The feedback is from teachers or parents or both?
They both were invited, and I would say of the 43, I think there's one or two teachers that have commented.
And so the protocol we'll use is that we will simply leave the, I had to fix that spelling error, it was bothering me. We will leave that link there to provide us with your comments, and so every time we do the FAQ update, we get a couple more, as typical standard, and I think that will continue. And then we will also reactivate the Superintendent's Advisory Council to more frequent check-ins, and they really did an incredible, that's the leadership of all the different boards and PGAs at the different buildings and boosters and different groups, and they did an excellent job to put out, requests to people to say, please feel free to forward your questions. So if we're not gathering them in this feedback loop, people have opportunities to give their feedback, and we'll use that to just kind of continue to temperature check where we are and make adjustments and provide feedback to you on how we're doing. So I think, as of now, we feel confident with our opening plans. Bus protocols are in place where they are. It's, regular seating, masks worn, windows cracked. We've got, classroom windows are variably opened or closed based upon what it does to temperature and flow in the room. We have the air purifiers available to classroom spaces, and all of our HVAC system rollouts remain the same. So I have confidence that we're opening in a good place, and we'll continue to use all these monitoring systems. So there's no action required, although you might want to I don't know, I would defer to you as the chair if you feel the need to re-vote acceptance of the October 1st benchmark. I mean, I think you could accept the protocols as they're currently updated if you want to just make sure you're on record,
I have a question about that before we make a motion of some sort. Between October 1st and October 6th, which is a school committee meeting, there's like a 5-day gap. I don't know, and then there's a meeting before that at September 22nd. So although we don't need to do anything right now, in order to sort of accommodate those 5 days before we meet, is there something we need to do officially prior to October 1st?
I would ask, what's the logic? Originally, we were going to have it end in September.
Well,
And so if the state extended the process to the 1st of October, there aren't 5 days open to a next meeting. I mean, I don't see the purpose of that discussion.
well, my understanding about the September 17th was that we were going to reassess at that point. And so October 1st, it would seem like we were going to reassess, and there's a 5-day gap.
Yeah, no, you're both making really relevant points. So let me tell you how I see these recommendations coming forward to you, which is the timeline will close when the data is there, the discussions that need to happen with the right groups of people have been had, and communications can move forward. So the state provides October 1st. We'll move forward when we're ready. If it seems that if there's an actionable item that I need to bring before you, I'll use October 6th, and then we would just delay what we do 1 week if we needed to. So we're in this for the long game. This is not where there has to be, the driving urgency of day by day. I think what we need to do is make sure that we stay in relationship with all the boards with strong communication and run the ship like we did last year, nice and steady, and make sure that we just keep checking in. Certainly if something were to happen where we needed to call an extra meeting, you guys are always, very, very responsive, but I think we'll use the meetings we have to pace updates to you. It's going to be more important that we make sure that we're engaged with the Board of Health, which will play a role in giving us feedback, and they don't meet as frequently. So, we'll move it forward, but I appreciate both your comments.
Well, I still submit that if we were going to review it on the 23rd of September, we could still do so.
Yeah, definitely.
Whether something happens on the 1st or not doesn't change what we were going to do.
Right, you might say, let's say I had to then, after the 23rd and before the 1st, we had to close one more meeting with the Board of Health. You could say pending approval of, or, so you guys are strong in your action framework. The authority remains with you. And I think that's an important delineation, which is, we've received feedback from all these boards, but you are the board that takes action on any direction of the district. So anything we do with changes will be voted by you.
I suspect we'll probably do something on the 23rd and on the 6th.
Yes, I do. I do believe that if we use history of the last year and a half, we will have an ongoing set of updates and adjustments as we move forward.
Thank you.
Yep.
We'll just have to wait to see if Desi can keep up with the decision-making that we
DESI's
need to make.
usually a little bit
They're usually
behind
2
because
weeks
they have
behind.
more people to attend to and much broader data. So while we often realize that we're usually about 3 weeks ahead of DESI, that's understandable. They're looking at 350 plus districts and responsive across, very complex communities. And so, of course, we can respond to our own more quickly. So I think that trend will probably continue, not for want of their trying to probably get it out more quickly.
Yeah, but I know that DESI will release more updated guidance around that October 1st. So whenever that happens, we can take action.
I imagine it'll be a busy stretch, yes.
Yeah. Sarah, did you have a question about
I
opening?
did, it's slightly related to opening protocol, but not really this conversation, so we could vote on that first, and then I could just ask.
Okay, I don't feel the need to take a vote because DESI tells us what to do,
Right.
and we're following it, and
That's
it's the same
fine.
guidance.
I
that
think
we
it's
had
a
last time, so-
standing protocol.
Right, and our
Yeah.
policy still as.
The policy is the same.
Policy
so-
hasn't changed at all.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, so, sorry, my question was, it's an opening protocol kind of question, but not necessarily related to COVID. It's just about the lunch. I know Lisa kind of touched on lunch the last time, and I know that there's still a free lunch option, I believe. I was just asking as like maybe a mom who hasn't looked at her children's lunch accounts in a while, like, do I need to log in and put money in there? Like, is everything, like, do we know the breakdown of like hot meals or cold meals or under that plan?
So we're in the process of finalizing the documentation for the community. There was we made an effort through DESI to better understand the logistics of the free and reduced lunch protocols, specifically related to a la carte items, snacks, milks, things like that.
Which the children are hoping are happening.
Yeah, so essentially what's come back to us even as of a couple hours ago was that the DESI recommendation for free and reduced lunch is for all students, but it has to be the whole lunch. So the proteins, the carbs, and the liquids and the all into one. If you decide to go a la carte, if you pack a lunch and you want them to bring milk, it's at a cost. So we're going to ask families and communicate it as broadly as possible to let them know to fill their cards and put money on for that a la carte items. We realize that there might be some learning curves, but we'll monitor that related to the finances and procedures and see if we need to be redundant with messaging and things like that. But we want to make sure that we're understanding the process and able to communicate clear and concise data to families that the whole lunch is free and that anything a la carte, snacks, milk, beverages, parents are supposed to fill their cards.
And I imagine Dave had that proofed and organized today. I'm hoping that that's a district push we can put out tomorrow, so people are getting it, with some time to spare. And it's breakfast, free breakfast and lunch for all students this year, the kind of the qualified meal combination. And then we will be hosting a full set of meal options like they usually do, kind of back to normal practice. And we also have a new director, and so a manager, so he's actually adding some new and interesting things. So we'll put that all, I think that's all in the communication that Dave hopes to push tomorrow.
Who is the new director, just so we have a name to put with a face and,
Jacob Martin.
okay.
Also, experience with Jacob is that he's very open to communication and feedback from the community. So I think tweakage and modifications to menu items is something that he's doing.
good.
As a new member of the community, I think he wants to make sure he does right by the constituents. So any feedback or anything you may hear from your community members, please do not hesitate to let him know, because I think
And we've run a couple surveys in the past and building-based surveys, and so we'll let Jacob and Dave work on coordinating to come to principals meeting, let them do a survey where kids get to give input, and that's always helpful so that we can keep refining the menus. So good things ahead.
The process and procedure for receiving a lunch, last year was so different. Is that the same process this year?
So it'll all be building-based. I mean, I think it's
Okay.
best to go building-based guidelines because they vary by building, but all principals will make sure that there's a well-organized methodology where every child's getting their lunch and opportunities to have time to eat and then transition out to recess, and they're doing, or a break, and at the high school, they've definitely spread the areas out so that they can maintain the morning break and then also lunch breaks as well with more outdoor seating. And so I think there's good innovations being designed, but they're individual by building, so I think they can look to their principals to provide good updates.
So free lunch, free breakfast till June of 2022.
Yeah, it'll be
for all.
interesting to cultivate the breakfast program that way, because we didn't have a breakfast program at several of the schools for multiple years, and now we will have a breakfast program across all schools, and it will be available. And I think really we see the culture for students that are coming off that bus or getting to high school in the morning early who will be able to grab a lunch or a breakfast. So it'll be interesting to see how it develops. And Jacob will come at some point and do a report, as we always do closer to the spring, when he can provide data on his first year.
Great, thank you. That sounds like it'll be an important update, and I imagine there's many families, not just incoming kindergarten families, but first grade families and other new families that don't even have a lunch account and the app all set up. They didn't even have to do it last year, so we'll just make sure that, again, those are great building-based questions, and I know the principals do a great job of communicating a lot of that information.
Yeah, that'll all go out the next day.
Yeah, that'll be great. Thank you, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's it for protocols. We feel ready to roll.
I just had one question from our nurse leaders about the test and stay program, and
So the test and stay program, we're currently waiting for delivery of supplies, and from there, they do the online training, and the test and stay, we'll be putting out a communication. We actually have one that Judy wanted to send today, so it's in my mail queue. So as soon as we finish and I can tackle my mail, she will be pushing that out to families so they get an update on how that will work, and there's a sign-off form that we need, a one-time permission form for students and families who allow their child to do the test and stay program. And there are guidelines for what's viable for being able to stay and what requires a quarantine. And so that is all in the memo that she has, and then there's the sign-off. So that should go home tonight or tomorrow.
great, thank you.
And she'll be able to be added to our updates that we do here. So once we're up and running, we'll be able to share the stats with you for how that's going.
Thanks. Any other questions about that? All right, we will move on to our review of warrant articles for Fall Town Meeting.
Great. So we have 3 articles that we want to review, so I'll have Daniel pull them up, and we'll step through them. I feel like Steve has already given you a picture. That's the draft of the warrant as it stands, and she put both in there. Did she put our?
no, they're different. One's Article 4 and one's Article 15.
All right, so let's look at Article 4. Thank you for helping me. So we have 3 articles that will come forward that are now dropped in. You can see the first one combines, actually, it ends up being 2 because.
Ends up being 2.
Yeah, because they combined them.
It's only 2, yeah.
So they're going to do the first, Article 4 looks at a request for 2 positions, and I'm actually going to break it up here, and I'm going to let Dave talk about one and Daniel talk about one. So I'm wondering, Daniel, if you want to take point on looking at the ELL position and that request, and then we can talk about kind of in general how we see this coming forward.
So the ELL request has to do with the recognized need of students who are coming in who are both at Mill Pond and the high school. We have students who are, they're basically in English as a second language. You categorize by the amount of English that you know, and the 1 is the lowest level. 1, 2, 3, 4 goes up to level 6, and we get students periodically who come into the district who not only are at level 1, but in terms of their English, but also have they've missed several years of schooling. And as you can imagine, catching them up is it's a difficult task. You cannot take a 10-year-old and put them in a kindergarten or first or second grade classroom and keep them with their peers. But when we have kids that have missed multiple years of schooling, it requires more intensive staffing, smaller class sizes, and more time with a ELL staff. So we had been splitting a teacher between 0.5 between Mill Pond and the high school, and we just don't think that's feasible. And so we've taken money for the time being and put it on a grant to be able to hire an additional 1.0 FTE so that we could have one person at Mill Pond and another person at the high school working with those students. And so we're hoping the warrant passes and then we could take it off the grant. That's the idea. For the time being, we have hired the position. And so we think we've got a valid case to make in terms of unexpected influx of type of student that we have to take care of.
And to complement that, I mean, typically, we don't tend to bring forward FTE positions. I think it's more typical on the town side as a need for when they staff in the cycle of their budgeting. But these two positions represent need that we don't want to defer until the completion of spring town meeting. Leaving that on a grant when it's clearly enrollment driven isn't best practice for where we want to be. I think those grant funds would be better directed to the uses of other Ell support, which we anticipated. And I believe since it's clearly enrollment driven, that it's appropriate to bring it forward now and have it into the salary-based budget calculations that will come forward into the budget that we put forward in December. And I think making sure that we have that position ready to go now is essential. If you have a student who's needing to cover high school content and they have no English, you've got a double need that requires a lot of intensive intervention. Westboro has a very successful rate of helping students learn language acquisition quickly and pick up their own content knowledge. These are highly proficient students, but these students have had a lot of fragmentation of schooling. We're also concerned we're going to see an opportunity where if we will need more coverage because we might well receive people from Afghanistan. They've really allowed a lot of transition, and we tend to be a place where we might well get some settlement. And so you've got trauma, you've got transition in schooling, and very little language. So the staffing allows us to be prepared. It's certainly fully staffed already, but I think it's always a stretch department. So I feel like it's appropriate at this time, and the dollar amount is exact to the person we hired, so it's a tight request. Yep.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I think one of the questions that might come up, it certainly came up for me, is why didn't we put this into the budget for last year? So, and as I can also state that it's a line in the sand where we start our budgeting process, and that's a long time ago, and therefore this is a need. But I think people will ask that.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very appropriate question. I think few people budget before they've even started using their budget, and then run a whole year and do summer enrollments and don't have any responsive way to particularly cover that. we keep, if you think about special education, where you also see an influx that has specialized requirements of staffing, we often, like I say, usually we've held that 100,000 of the circuit breaker available to cover that. And so you don't see these come forward around special education. So there's a stopgap that's different that allows us to be responsive when we've budgeted so far in advance of knowing what our actual FTE needs will be around specialized support. I think we've done very well with Ell needs, but because of the number of these kids being level ones and fragmented school history, they are requiring a very different type of intervention. So that would be clearly how we would make sure we respond.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So it is unique for us. I mean, I think it's important to recognize that that means that, you know, I feel very comfortable defending it. It's not something where we have a trajectory of a history where we're bringing staffing forward to fall town meeting. And I feel like very clear that I can speak to it with a need that, you know, is defensible. And so then the second position I will let David speak to is a request for a second payroll position. And I think he can certainly eloquently give you a sense of the pressures we're facing there. And Daniel and I can add any other detail and help to answer questions.
It's still in Article 4.
Yeah, it's still Article 4.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if I've got
They're
Like,
combined.
sorry, they put them in both. I keep saying we have 3 articles, but we really only have 2. We have Article 4 and then the zoning article.
Yep. Dave, can you pull your microphone just a little bit closer? Sorry.
Sure.
Just drag it forward a little. Yeah, thanks.
So the second request or FTE in the article is for a payroll specialist. In short, this is essentially due to the volume of the district and the processes around payroll and the staffing that we currently have. There is approximately 700 staff in Westboro Public Schools, and there is approximately between 15 and 20 functions of a single payroll person. That FTE exceeds 20 hours in a month, more than 100% FTE. I worked with not only the assistant director, Paige Thomas, Amber, Daniel, and discussed kind of different scenarios. The workload that is currently being brought into the business office far exceeds one person. So much so that we have actually dispersed it to other people in different departments, even outside of the business office. Upon initial review and kind of some more analysis of an assessment of the workload, it's clear that the position is valid. It essentially, it not only will it reduce potential errors, but it frees up opportunities for the staff that are supporting the business office to do more work that they're dedicated to. So it reduces errors for across the board. Technology, we have a person in technology supporting us. Superintendent's office does help some of the lane changes and things of that nature. So we are spread pretty thin with that work, and to be able to bring that into a single person and have it work will allow not only the IT support to function on IT support and superintendent's office to maintain in the superintendent's office and their priorities. It is a clear need for us. And again, the workload only gets bigger related to substitutes, stipends, contract changes. You know, there's 17 different unions that we look at. So at the same time, it's just a plethora of work, and this is going to support the need of ensuring less issues and stronger viability for the business office.
I think, too, it's essential to remember we have got to have a strong second cross-train to payroll. Right now, Paige ends up, because she was originally, Paige Thomas, who's the assistant business manager, was the payroll person, so she can do emergency backup, but our payroll person is currently out on sick leave, and we're kind of going under. It's way too many functional pieces because our payroll is so non-standardized. So, you know, you've got all the longevity, you've got the additional hourly rates, you've got all of the extra contract layers to calculate. All of that has to be manually done and rotated by payroll across at least 400 employees. it's not doable. And so credit to the office. It has continued to do an incredible job, but we have an increase in errors that are not really meeting the acceptable benchmark, and we've really tried to begin to track how to streamline those, and we just simply have the functions shared across too many people. So it's really, it's a functionality. It's not that people aren't working hard, but we also see that's what's happening is we're getting a backlog then in the retirement paperwork, we're getting a backlog in the submissions to the state, things that have to happen. So it's just, it's at a place where capacity-wise, I think requesting a position, again, is appropriate in that we would at least be able to look towards hiring it as, like right now, I would post it pending approval at town meeting. That's pretty much, I mean, I'm hoping that the person that's out on leave comes back, or I would say we'd be kind of at a crisis level around payroll. And I think it's not unlike what you're seeing in other industries. We can't get backup help. So you used to be able to get a better temp. You could call and get like a short-term accountant. We just, I'm very concerned that we won't have someone. So at this point, I think there are two very focused requests for staffing that aren't typical for us as a district, but I think certainly merited for where we are.
The only thing that I would add is just the emphasis on the customer service level of that role. I'm sure it's fair to say for everybody that when there's issues and concerns or questions related to your net income, you reach out and you ask questions. So customer service is consistent and it's consistently high. People have questions, always want to ensure that their hours are appropriate, anything about deduction changes, modifications to their families. It incorporates long-term leaves, leave of absence, terminations, everything. Any type of quirkiness, ends up at the payroll desk. So for us, it's high priority.
I would say I would agree with the position. I know you guys run lean up there, and as the people who signed the payroll, I don't know if you guys remember, but it's like this thick.
Yeah.
So I'm often called back to sign payroll again.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
To Dave's last point is you don't want to mess up someone's paycheck, and when it unfortunately happens on occasion, we're called back to sign, and it's always very quickly because we want to get it resolved.
Yeah.
And I think having a backup is very important.
Yeah, I think that the staff in that office has stayed static while the district is growing and growing and growing, and we've kind of maxed out on that and need to add an additional staff person to, like you said, it's the customer service, so it's our employee has a question about something in their paycheck, and they want to know, is it right, is it wrong, and we have to have someone on the other end to answer that question.
Yeah, and I think there's also, we can't come to the place where the job skill is so untenable that people leave. So we have had turnover in that office, which hadn't happened in a long time. Yep. So we currently have open positions as well as the stresses we're under. So I feel it's pretty critical at this point to stabilize the office, and I'm hopeful in adding a position, we can reallocate the workload, which Dave has already mapped out, and bring a little bit more functionality in there.
And I would like to say to our Westboro community that we are hiring for that position and many others. And if anyone, is looking, please let us know.
No, that's actually a relevant point. We have a high-level HR position posted right now for the director of HR. We have this payroll position, which will be posted. And then the accounts payable is actually posted right now as well.
So I wanted to add, I know this has been stated in the past, at least since I've been on the committee, that when we look at the records, the stats specifically for administrative percentages that we spend in Westboro public schools, we are particularly low.
Yeah.
In fact, we now have data right up till 2020, and it was clear that in 2018, we were 20% less. In 2019, we were 30% less. And in 2020, we were 20% less. So putting this, and I thought I was going to see different numbers because we had added the HR director a few years back, but that's not the case because you need administrative, you need enough employees to make the whole system work. Right. So I'm not surprised that you need an additional staff member. And certainly, you know, having seen from different perspectives that there have been a lot of, you know, customer feedback, the customer service piece that you're mentioning, I have heard that more in the last year. So it makes sense. It's just a need and not a want, which, you know, looking at the numbers, it was even more blatant that we have to get a little bit closer to that, what is considered state average. So what I was talking about was below state average. And we have a significant, you know, and this is based on per student expenditure. So it's not, you can compare apples to oranges. You can compare a big system versus a small system because it's per student. So they do have the data that shows that I believe that we are slightly understaffed in the administrative offices. So thank you for at least assessing it and then bringing it forward so that we might be able to create a little balance.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
So that is the anchor article that we would be bringing forward. I think the other, as Steve has appropriately said, is almost clerical. I don't want to undermine it in terms of its importance, but the moving of the shed is within the envelope. And that article is 15, if you want to scroll down to that, Daniel. And I think Steve will be shepherding through any steps that we need to take. And I think after we get, as he said, the legal counsel assessment of what is required of it, we'll be able to then, right there it is, to respond. So I would say we kind of be tracking that when we get feedback, and those would be the two that we bring forward. It feels like a really appropriate fall town meeting overall in the sense that it's not too heavily laden, it's very specified, and we should be able to do it in one day and come together and accomplish, you know, keeping things moving forward.
Yeah, and as a reminder, the fall town meeting is Monday, October 18th at 7 p.m. at the high school. So looking at the length of this warrant, it looks like something we could get through that night, so.
Yeah, I would
feel
think
good.
so. So we'll prepare appropriately with some key slides, and we'll bring it forward. You know, the process will come forward through FinCom and discussion and clarify any information and look forward. I'm kind of looking forward to fall town meeting.
Yeah.
So from here, if we're complete on those items, we would move into, typically Daniel does an enrollment update. We're actually going to hold on the enrollment update for now because I think we're still enrolling and there's so much transition. People are enrolling their students so much later than historically, and I think some of that might be COVID related, but I think it's also just the amount of moves and how people, you know, are living. So it doesn't make sense to provide this report before opening. It did when we were growing so fast that we were staffing. We were trying to respond to that enrollment report each season. Now I think it makes more sense that after we get the confirmation of who has shown up and who are kind of like bodies in seats, that I'll shift this enrollment report to probably our third meeting when it's a little tighter. If he has it ready by September 8th, we'll do it, but we'll wait and see how it looks then, because we get the affirmation right away around attendance. So right now, we've enrolled a lot of students, but we also have students that have transitioned out. So, you know, getting that number tight for you, I think we need a little more time. However, Daniel does have a highlight on the hiring, and I'll have him do that now.
Yeah, I can do that. I mean, I can also tell you, you know, the real enrollment numbers will likely be up from last year, which is not a surprise because we had a number of families who were opting for homeschool and keeping their kids out of schooling altogether. But, you know, until our first day of school, we don't know for sure who's going to show up.
Do you get the sense that there are families homeschooling again this year more than we typically have? We always have families homeschooling, but.
A few, but
okay.
Nothing like last year.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had just a handful of requests.
Okay.
Yeah. But as I mentioned earlier, you know, there are some people that were obviously hoping we would do a remote option.
Yeah.
But they don't want to do the homeschooling. So as far as the hiring is concerned, I mean, we've got, I told you that earlier that there were about 60 paras, teachers, tutors that we brought on. But when you bring in like lunch workers, noon aides, custodial staff, and administrative assistants that we've hired. We basically have upwards of 97 people we've hired over the summer. And so, you know, with retirements and people leaving, we did, I don't know whether this is a COVID effect or not, but there was several August resignations, which is somewhat unusual for us. And so that's a lot of people on board. It's definitely
94, it's up to
94 so far, and we're still looking for another handful.
Yeah.
But I mean, as the teaching staff, I feel very good about the paras, the teachers, the tutors we've been able to onboard. You know, we always do well, and in terms of being able to attract people. You know, people move from other districts to come here.
Embedded in that number, just to give you a snapshot of that, so you have 94 people that we've hired. We have about 15 more positions to fill. We did have late resignations. We also had people, this has never happened, who reneged on their contracts, who signed a contract and then took other jobs. We probably had 4 of those, which is really very unlikely for us.
Yeah.
But it's happening in a lot of districts, and so, you know, if we're looking at, and it will happen more, if we've got 15 to 17 positions to fill, many of those people, you know, we might be getting people that leave other jobs, so we'll have to wait and see. Embedded in that hiring, Dale and I were reviewing, you remember there are 3 FTE for classroom positions that are COVID increases, a 5th grade and a 1st grade, and I think a 2nd grade, 1 at Hastings, 1 at Fales, and 1 at Mill Pond to keep those numbers lower. We used COVID funding to hire 1-year opportunities to keep those numbers advantageously smaller so we could space kids out. 2 additional tutors to support again, smalling down different types of settings, and then a number of additional noon aides so that we had more help at lunch so we could spread students out further. So all of the buildings, I think, have added noon aides to make sure that they have people there so that they can either break the lunch and recess apart into 2 groups or spread kids outside or into different settings. So embedded in the 94, you've got, you know, probably 12, and more noon aides in particular, that are part of that number. So we did very well, considering that's the number of people we needed to hire, and we feel good about, you know, who came on board. We'll dive into the year and we'll give you a final update after we get everybody in.
It's not unique to our school system to have these openings, and in fact, other school systems have many more openings to fill. It's just where we're at.
Yeah, and I think the positions remaining, again, we also had a lot of transition in paraeducators. I would say that's where we had late, I would say we had several late resignations, even across teaching positions, several counseling positions, a couple classroom positions, and then a substantial number of paraeducators. And there's usually a lot more movement in that field than we are used to in Westboro. I mean, I annually had to hire in Wellesley all my paras every year. So we have a stable group of paraeducators who make it their professional choice to be with us a long time. We're not used to the amount of turnover. So 94 also adds to this impact that Dave was talking about, because all of those people have to be, you know, onboarded and paid. So
yeah, that's a lot of paperwork, and that's a lot of people to connect with. And
so we just want to make sure that again, provide that short update to you. And I think There's no action required, and then we could move into giving you a short update on the summer projects, which typically is a more, sometimes larger report. This year I shifted to a shorter memo for you that just lists all the projects. We don't need that to be a 2-hour report. We just need you to be able to see that, you know, we accomplished a good amount this summer, and I guess I would have Daniel open that up, and Dave can step you through it.
Sarah has a quick.
Oh, sorry,
Real quick,
Sarah.
like offshoot of the hiring, you mentioned the COVID funding. Will we eventually get an update on where we are with COVID funding when we start budget, like not even related to hiring, but related to whatever?
I would imagine at the September 8th meeting, we'll look at the ARPA funds and moving forward with those, working with the town, and then the ESSER funds, 2 and 3. Daniel and Dave will keep you updated on those expenditures as we start allocating them.
I know there's a few years to spend them all, so.
There is, and I think right now, those positions that I delineated to you are all being carried on what we anticipate will be the ESSER 2 block of funds. And what we don't want to do is, you know, I mean, salaries burn through those funds, but if that's what we need
Yeah,
them for.
that'll be on ESSER 3.
It'll be on 3, yeah. So they'll provide that update once all those allocations are made.
Thank you.
And I couldn't help but notice when you said renege on their contracts, is there any recourse for a district when someone just
No.
resigns in August when?
Unfortunately not, it's just
We
unprofessional.
go on social media and shame them.
No, he's kidding. No, it's very rare, but you know what, people will do it. I think, you know, when you haven't really ever worked there and you haven't gotten through the door, it seems easier to do, but it's very rare.
And this is what all school systems are facing right now is opportunities are open everywhere. So if you can shorten your commute or get more pay, or, you know, so if we were to able to like draw the strings around Massachusetts, you'd see like this position open and this person moves here because this person moved there because this person moved
Right,
here.
there's
Like, just sort
definitely
of
at the end a lot
shuffles
of that. That's
around.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's what's going on now. I mean, the initial pool of hiring, there's a bunch of people, they all get jobs, and then there's the bumping, and that's a little more intensive this
And we
year.
typically see that with like administrator positions, like you'll see that principal, you know, like district administrator, where there's like the shuffle. But it just so happens that there's just a lot of shuffling among teachers
Yeah.
and other
Yeah.
kind of staff. So.
Yeah.
I think there's a shuffling in every industry
Every
right now.
industry.
It is not just education, and we certainly
Yeah.
hear it from other school committee members, but we hear it from other industries for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of stress in the employment market right now,
Yep.
definitely. So if you look at projects, do you want to
Summer
step people through
projects.
it, or you want to do any highlights? I can do it if you want, and you can chime in.
Oh, go ahead, I can
What's
chime
your
in.
preference? All right, so I'll start and chime in. So lots going on. As always, we use summer to advantageously do a lot of, you know, maintenance work. At the high school, the big priorities were those dividers, which went into the gyms. They look gorgeous. The people that did the installation did a great job. I checked those out and walked those down the other day. They look good. The floors got refinished. The guy that does our floor refinishing at Gibbons and Mill Pond and the high school's top shelf. He does beautiful work. Again, keeping our products for a long time well cared for. We did a lot of facelifting with new carpeting and painting. Things are looking tired, and so one of the things that Steve and I talk about is, you know, here you are, your building fails, and you're gonna have this new shiny building, and you've got to keep the others kind of upgrading. And so we really worked on that, some work. We added a new air purifier system into the clayroom at the high school, which I think is really a nice addition to enhance the environment in there for just kind of the overall air quality. We hadn't had any problem that was a benchmark. It just keeps the air circulation even better in there. You see the softball field renovations are underway. They're coming along. They're going to be beautiful. The dugouts are ready to be dropped in, and I think, you know, we've had, again, coordination of lots of people over there to get the irrigation in and the new field topping and all of the work done to lay the concrete pad. So that kind of work takes time. It's coming together. I think we should have it complete soon. Lots of fencing, sprinkler system work, baseball dugouts. We also upgraded the boys' dugouts with some fresh look that we'd gotten that make them more parallel to the ones we just ordered. A lot of fencing repairs, and we did some tree removal at the tennis courts, a lot of obstructed view. And now that our tennis players are winning all the time, and they have this large constituency of people who come to watch them, Johanna said, look, Amber, the fans can't see around the giant, overgrown, trees, so we took a couple down. And as a tree hugger, I definitely have to struggle with that. But they were pines, and pines don't add shade. They just take up visualization, so we did remove them. And then we did repairs to the parking lots. At Gibbons, we did a lot of painting, the floors. At Mill Pond, fire-rated doors, did the floors, playground wood chips, all that kind of general. They're in pretty good shape. Hastings, really looking at doing some facelifting over at Hastings. We renovated the 3 kindergarten rooms with all new flooring and carpet. We did all new classroom carpets, where every classroom got a large and a medium new classroom area rug carpets throughout every class in that building, all new, got rid of the old ones. We updated the lobby. It's really worth a visit, and I think you guys would enjoy a walkabout at some point there, where we made the entryway that had been done as part of the HMFH renovation of the preschool, and that entryway really felt a little stilted because it ended like 6 feet in, so we basically extended that look and painted the lobby and ran that birch siding all the way through the main area and really brightened it up. It looks really nice. I feel like the feel there is much better. New ceiling tiles and some of that stuff, but also a lot of painting. And we did a lot of new carpeting in that middle office, which couldn't have been done before, where all those areas are painted a lot. And we filled the pit in the library and put down new carpet. It looks spectacular. Really updated the space and painted. That's been a project we really wanted to get done, and we had to wait until people were ready to let go of the pit. And so for the Hastings graduate, it was a sad farewell for some of them. But I think people really see like the way libraries are designed now, that having more flexibility in that space. And we just ordered all new furniture and shelving in there. So it's a little delayed coming. So the librarian, John Maxwell, is making do until it arrives. He's trying to be patient. We're currently installing the sprinkler system at Hastings, and I'm working with Mr. Durrett on some planning to try to modify some of the installation that they've designed. I don't think it holds to the standard of what we want long term, and I have to say, has been really helpful to me to kind of get a picture for how we might move forward with that differently. And so it's just the piping that they ran is much larger. It's all below the ceiling, and it's much larger than I anticipated, and I just feel like it doesn't fit with what we're trying to achieve there to keep that building feeling equitably close to the other two. So I think Steve understands that, and we're talking about options. Lastly, Armstrong, a lot of chipping, repairs. Again, Armstrong is in pretty good shape. We did work over there already when we added that wing. So a lot of painting, again, keeping things feeling fresh. A lot of LED lighting upgrades. Those are almost complete in all buildings now, so that feels really good. We had to remove carpeting. It seems a shame to do any kind of work in the old fields before we knock it down, but we had to put in all new carpeting in the kindergarten areas because I felt they smelled musty. So we pulled them all, did a real upgrade to the space area, and put down all new carpeting for those kindergartners so that their start of the school year feels really good. Borough program, we did a lot of upgrades over there. It looks fabulous. The rear awning's back in because we'd had to pull it at some point. And then the front window awnings look great. We also put in new windows. So we're having some problem with like fogging and wetness on the inside of those windows. So that upgrade feels really good, as well as ADA compliance work. Very exciting to see the traffic of interest at the Borough, and they had such a successful summer at the farmers market and the outdoor movie nights, that kind of stuff. So, and then the electrical company that we subcontracted with through the summer are really doing a lot of ballast replacement and general electrical. So busy summer, very good. Not as many major projects as we've done in some summers, actually. So there weren't a lot of crazy, like back here to the wall deadline type projects, which felt good. It was just more a lot of cosmetic. I was surprised we could get carpeting and paint. Some places can't get the paint they want. We were very, very lucky. So I feel really good about how buildings are looking, and I think you'll be pleased when we can set up some time for you guys to tour.
It's interesting that we did a lot of interior work, whereas in past years, it's all been mainly exterior, and that everything has a shelf life, and we delayed all these interior projects for a very long time. So when people hear that we did all these things, it's not like we do these regularly.
You have a rotational painting plan, you have a
Yep.
rotational outdoor plan. The buildings and grounds team working with Dave basically they have a capital plan that has that same rotation of big projects and how they need to come forward. But we also have then the general maintenance rotation, that these projects are all done in the interior within budget projects to make sure that we keep 6 really busy buildings that are highly trafficked, functional and looking good.
And where is Bob? Because usually we hear from Bob.
I know. I gave
this
Bob
meeting.
a break for tonight, so he didn't have to come. And I know that I wanted to keep this meeting tight time-wise, so I had them shift to just a memo for you tonight, but
I've seen Bob, he's busy.
He's busy.
they are busy. They are
The buildings and
incredibly
grounds.
busy.
Yep. Just want to thank him. That's
And we also are short several maintenance people because we had some transition in the maintenance department. So also in a summer like this, we were down 2 maintenance and an electrical person. So that's why we subcontracted with the electrical company until we can hire our own electrical guy back. So lots going on. Very typical summer for us.
Yeah. No, those physical upgrades are really important in our buildings. Like you said, Fales is going to open, and we want our other buildings to get some attention as well. And just as a reminder to everyone that your physical environment can really affect how you feel, and how a student feels really affects their learning, and how an employee feels can affect their job performance. So we do take pride in how our buildings look, and it does take some investment, and we're proud to do that for our
I'm very
students.
pleased with how things are looking, and I think that we have a very strong maintenance staff, and our buildings always benchmark well. As you've heard Steve say, like when we go to do building repairs or MSBA work, we get very high marks for the fact that our buildings are very well cared for. So thank you. I think, again, an advantageous summer for us as part of readiness, and we also had then the Rangers Give Back who came in and did all that mulching and weeding, and things are looking really good. So
Yeah,
we're ready to
they're
see
working hard.
kids on
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah, everyone looks good.
And that's
All
it
right.
from us.
Okay, thanks. So I think we're ready to move into some committee appointments. So it's good that we have this meeting before the school year officially starts with students, so we can get some of these things updated and appointed. So the first committee appointment is to appoint a representative to the Capital Expenditures Planning Committee, and that's something that needs to happen annually. So I would make a motion to appoint Steve Durrett to the Capital Expenditures Planning Committee.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you, Steve, for taking on that responsibility again. We appreciate it. And then since Dave has joined us, we need to appoint him to a few committees. So I make a motion to appoint Dave Gordon to the Sick Leave Bank Committee.
I'll second that.
Lots
Any
of committees.
discussion
Lots.
We're well organized.
All right, all in favor for the, okay, thank you. And to appoint Dave Gordon to the Joint Labor Management Committee.
I appoint Dave Gordon to be a member to the Joint Labor Management Committee.
Yeah. Second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Sarah. All in favor? Right, it's official.
Keep you busier.
Yep.
And you can see the AVC Board of Directors, you know, I serve on that and you get my updates. I'm actually chairing it this year, so I am the chair of that board, so probably for the next 2 years. Just FYI.
And at our last meeting in June, we had discussed about appointing a school committee member to the stipend committee. But I was looking back at my notes and I can't remember if we like officially did that.
I don't think we really did, although I was included on an email that came out from the stipend committee.
Okay, great.
Want to be appointed to the?
Would you like to be?
Sure, I mean, it was before, I don't know if it's still, I don't even think it was on that list.
I would say you should probably reappoint her, but I think it's a good committee for her. She's got the overlap to all the contract work that she did, so I think it's really nice, and buses is going to keep Lisa busy, and Steve's, you know, buried in buildings, so.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to appoint Sarah Delay to the stipend committee.
Second.
All in favor? It's official.
Lest you try to coast off of committees, Sarah.
I got the email.
Great. And then we do need to update some policies to add Dave Gordon's name on them. It's policy JICK, policy against harassment, including sexual harassment and discrimination for students, and ACAB, policy against harassment, including sexual harassment and discrimination for students. And originally Irene Oliver's name was there as someone who collects reports. And so we typically have that person be the Director of Finance and Administration. So I will make a motion to replace Irene Oliver's name with David Gordon's name on policy JICK and ACAB.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Great, so we'll make those changes and have Andrea update that on our.
I guess I have one more. If
policy deck.
Andrea's going to go in and update, the Huckamacka Pond Committee that I was on actually got smaller.
Oh, okay.
I think it was ended up being a large committee, and so they resized it down to like Conservation Committee and more pertinent bodies. So we got removed from the committee.
Okay, so there's no.
We didn't have a vested interest in the pond, and they will, the committee said that they would go back to interested parties as needed when things came up or whatever. So if Andrea's cleaning that up, maybe we can take me back off.
Okay, so we don't, there's no
Or she
school
can put it
committee.
in the retired section.
Yeah, it's a retired committee. We no longer need a school committee representative on that. The town manager reorganized the committee. Great. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second?
Thank you. All in favor? All right, thank you, everyone. Good luck this week. We can't wait to welcome back students to our schools. This meeting is adjourned.
Excellent.